Everyone, my name's Amanda and welcome to Rainy Books with Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing a Manga Monday, and this time I'm going to be reviewing my long-awaited series that I've been waiting to read for a while, all the way through, and it is My Little Monster by Robico. I have been wanting to read My Little Monster for quite a while now. I watched the series when it came out on Netflix. Sadly, it did not finish like a lot of shoujo anime tend to do. Also, the manga was ahead, so I guess they couldn't adapt the full thing. But I finally was able, I think back in last fall, to start reading it. I did have like the first 2 volumes, and then I kind of stopped because I was reading a lot of different manga. And so I dedicated time to read My Little Monster, and so yeah, so that's what I'll be talking about today. But first I'm going to talk a little bit about our mangaka. So Robico is our author's pen name. We actually don't know her real name. That's what a lot of mangaka tend to do. So Robico attended vocational school with the thought of becoming an illustrator. In 2005, Robico made her debut with, I'm gonna probably mispronounce this, but Demekinikyu, published in the May edition of the Shoujo magazine Dessert. She then went on to create My Little Monster in 2008, where it was serialized in Dessert until 2013. There's not too much further about our mangaka. Most mangaka tend to be more private about their personal life, which is completely fine. So now I'm just gonna give a brief synopsis of the manga, and then I'll get into my thoughts. Shizuku Mitsutani is a self-absorbed overachiever, concerned with only maintaining the highest grades in school. Haru is an impulsive, short-tempered brute who scares everyone with his explosive bursts of violence. Haru gets suspended on the first day of school when he encounters some bullies harassing a student and dispatches the bullies with great bloody violence. Shizuku is tasked with delivering school materials to Haru, who interprets this as an act of friendship and latches on to Mitsutani, much to her dismay, and so begins a strange and potentially combustible relationship. So I really enjoyed reading this manga from beginning to end. Even though I'm well beyond my teen years, reading and living through Haru and Shizuku, also known as Mitsutani, was a nice way to decompress from the day and dive into. It's not a shonen manga by any means. There's no craziness going on. There's nothing absurd. Well, there are some absurd things, I guess, but there's nothing like powers or anything or forms. It's pretty down to earth for the most part. What the story is really about is just life, love, and learning to grow up. It's also learning that the true protagonist in life is yourself, ultimately. It's a nice coming of age story, which I also tend to gravitate towards, especially in watching a story rather than reading. But this is an exception, I guess, because it's a manga. In terms of our characters, Shizuku and Haru seem like very opposite people, and while they are, our mangaka does a great job of showing readers just how similar they are, even though, because like Shizuku, she's very by the book and it's all about grades, and if there's not a purpose that she can figure out, or if an action does not get her a gain, she does not want to do it. And Haru is very opposite of that. Like, he is outgoing, he just kind of wants to do whatever's fun, and he doesn't really, not very vigorous, but our mangaka shows us like how similar they are despite their personality differences. They go through kind of the same things in life a little bit differently, but still the same. Like Haru's father kind of expects the best out of him, and then Shizuku's mother kind of expects the best out of her, and so they go through similar feelings of like not belonging. And like I love that. I love their character development throughout the 12 volumes that we find, or 12 plus an extra bonus 13th volume. Our characters develop into learning that even though their personalities are different, even in their friend group, that they can all be friends because they all have something in common and they all have something to give and take for each person. So it was also just like a fun whirlwind kind of read. There's always something going on, especially with Haru. Haru lives like a really crazy life that he doesn't really talk about, but the craziness kinds of finds him in different situations. And so it just makes for like a fun and interesting read. And you never know really what you're gonna get with each volume. Even though you can predict like in the very beginning that Haru and Shizuku are gonna end up together, it still makes for a page turner type of manga. There wasn't anything that I really disliked from this manga besides there's probably a few points of concerns. Like especially at the beginning, Haru's kind of like a real big jerk, and he like pours a drink on Shizuku, and watching that as like a teenager, like it was kind of funny, but now I'm like, well, you're just a jerk and she shouldn't even give him the time of day. So that's just me being older and knowing. Also, one of their friends in their friend group, Natsume, she really likes Haru's uncle, who Haru stays with, and obviously Haru's uncle is an adult and she is a teenager. Even though like that can be normal for a young girl to have interest in an older man, he never reciprocates it, but he also, I feel like, kind of like leads her on in a way, and it's like a little bit weird. So I was a little bit wary about that, but I mean, he kind of tells her towards like the middle-ish end, like, yeah, this isn't happening. And then she ends up being with her equal counterpart love interest, which is Misawa. But I did find myself, while like that whole kind of like side story of her like in the uncle was going on, I found myself just kind of like skimming through because it was a little bit cringe, and I just like didn't think it was the most exciting thing. I was more into Haru and Shizuku. But overall, I really enjoyed my time reading My Little Monster. Of course, the differences between anime and manga, the manga actually finishes and the anime kind of, it has its own unique ending, or it kind of ends like at a good spot on the manga, so it doesn't get to finish. And if you are wondering where like to pick up from the anime, I actually just recommend reading it from the beginning, but you can start reading it from chapter 16. Will there ever be a season 2? We can only hope, but it is probably far-fetched. But again, overall, I really did enjoy reading it. It's a good manga. It's also not like a super long one. It's 12 volumes plus the 13, which is the 13th one is just like short stories that are like stuff that you didn't see while the main story was going on. And it ends on a really sweet and loving note, of course, and it's a fun ride, and I love the character development, and I love seeing our characters grow up and become themselves. I guess that's one more point I want to make, is that I loved how, like, my complaint about Fruits Basket is that Toru doesn't, like, she follows Kyo and like she doesn't become like her own person. I guess she chooses her own path, but like she's so young that she doesn't get to be like herself, choose a path for herself. She's choosing one because of Kyo. And so in My Little Monster, I appreciated that like Haru got to like do what he wanted to do. Like he was gone for a whole year and he was gonna be gone longer, and and Shizuku got to like do her residency and like live out her dream, and then they came together, you know, happy ending. So I kind of like seeing that too. I feel like that's a little more realistic, but I guess everyone's reality is different. So yeah. But yeah, I definitely recommend My Little Monster. It's a cute little read if you like shoujo. If you're not super into shoujo, you might not like it, but it is a little bit funny, so maybe you will. But that is it for today. Thank you for joining me. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy reading.